Emerging from Tehran today, March 8, 2026, suggest a significant and audacious military operation has taken place. Unconfirmed accounts indicate that a precision airstrike, widely attributed to Israel, has targeted the headquarters of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Air Force. This facility is located in the heart of the Iranian capital, a city usually considered to be deep within the country's protective shield. The alleged attack represents a major escalation in the long-running shadow war between the two regional adversaries. If confirmed, striking a high-value military target within Tehran itself would signal a new and dangerous phase in their conflict, moving beyond proxy battles in other countries. The implications of such a direct attack are immense. For years, the covert struggle has been fought through cyber attacks, assassinations of scientists, and strikes on Iranian assets in places like Syria and Iraq. However, penetrating the airspace of Tehran to hit a critical IRGC installation is an act of unprecedented boldness. It challenges the very core of Iran's national security doctrine, which relies on the idea that its capital is invulnerable to direct enemy action. The psychological impact on both the Iranian leadership and its public could be as significant as the physical damage inflicted upon the military infrastructure targeted in the raid. The choice of the IRGC Air Force headquarters is no accident. This branch of the powerful Revolutionary Guard is central to Iran's strategic military capabilities. It is responsible for operating the nation's ballistic missile arsenal, its growing fleet of unmanned aerial vehicles, and its advanced air defense networks. Hitting this specific nerve center is a clear message aimed at crippling the command and control functions that oversee Iran's most threatening military assets. The strike was not just a random act of aggression, it was a carefully calculated move designed to degrade specific capabilities and send a powerful warning to the regime. Details are still scarce, and official statements from Tehran have been limited, but the incident has already sent shockwaves across the Middle East. Regional governments are watching closely, as the potential for a retaliatory response from Iran is extremely high. The international community is bracing for the fallout, with diplomats likely scrambling to de-escalate the situation and prevent a wider conflict from erupting. This single event, if verified, could reset the strategic calculus of the entire region, forcing every nation to reconsider its defensive posture and alliances in light of this new and aggressive precedent set by the strike on Tehran. The primary target of this daring airstrike was reportedly the Central Air Defense Command Center. This facility is not just another military building, it is the brain of Iran's entire national air defense network. From this fortified location, commanders monitor the country's airspace, coordinate responses to aerial threats, and link together a vast web of radar stations, surface-to-air missile batteries, and fighter jet squadrons. It is the central nervous system responsible for protecting Iran's skies from any and all intrusions, making it arguably one of the most critical military sites in the entire country. Its function is to see everything and direct everything. The strategic importance of this command center cannot be overstated. By neutralizing this single point of control, an attacker can effectively blind and confuse Iran's entire defensive apparatus. Without the central hub to process information and issue coordinated orders, individual air defense units would be forced to operate in isolation. This would make them far less effective and much more vulnerable to subsequent waves of attacks. The strike was aimed at creating a window of opportunity, a period of chaos where Iranian defenses would be deaf and blind, allowing other targets to be hit with a reduced risk of interception. For Iran, the command center represents the cornerstone of its defensive strategy, which is built on the principle of layered defense. This strategy is designed to detect and engage threats at various distances from its borders, with the most powerful systems protecting its most sensitive locations, like Tehran. The Central Air Defense Command Center is what makes this layered approach work as a cohesive whole rather than a collection of separate parts. Losing this capability, even temporarily, would be a devastating blow, forcing a complete re-evaluation of its ability to defend its sovereign airspace against a technologically superior adversary. The attack on this specific target demonstrates a deep understanding of Iran's military structure. It shows that the aggressor's intelligence was precise enough to identify the single most critical node in the air defense system. It also suggests that the goal was not simply to cause damage, but to achieve a specific strategic effect. To dismantle the command and control that allows Iran to project a credible defense. The message is clear. No part of Iran's military infrastructure, no matter how well protected or centrally important, is beyond reach. This reality forces Iranian military planners into a difficult and unsettling position. Beyond the main command center, the airstrike reportedly hit several other key targets within the IRGC complex. These secondary targets were not random. They were chosen to maximize the disruption to Iran's military operations. Among them were the air defense systems positioned around the headquarters itself. These missile batteries and anti-aircraft guns were there to provide a final layer of protection for the critical command node. By eliminating them, the attackers ensured that the main target was left exposed, and that any immediate Iranian attempts to defend the area would be significantly hampered, making the strike more likely to succeed. Another crucial set of targets included the operational headquarters buildings. These facilities are where the IRGC's top commanders and strategists plan their missions. This is where long-range missile strikes are conceived, drone operations are coordinated, and proxy activities across the Middle East are directed. Striking these buildings serves a dual purpose. First, it disrupts the immediate chain of command, potentially eliminating key personnel and throwing ongoing operations into disarray. Second, it sends a powerful psychological message that the planners of Iran's military actions are themselves vulnerable, directly threatening the leadership in their own sanctuary. Logistical warehouses within the compound were also hit, according to the emerging reports. These were not ordinary storage sheds. They were believed to contain vital equipment, spare parts, and components for Iran's ballistic missile and drone programs. Iran's military industry often relies on a complex supply chain to assemble its advanced weaponry, and these warehouses serve as critical hubs for those components. Destroying them creates a logistical nightmare for the IRGC, slowing down the production and maintenance of the very weapons that form the backbone of its offensive power. The impact of this could be felt for months or even years. Each of these secondary targets plays a vital role in Iran's military ecosystem. The air defense systems provide physical protection, the operational headquarters provide intellectual direction and planning, the logistical warehouses provide the material means to execute those plans. By hitting all three in a coordinated fashion, the strike was designed to inflict systemic damage. It was an attack not just on a single building, but on an entire capability, aiming to cripple the IRGC Air Force's ability to defend, plan, and build its arsenal, thereby achieving a much broader strategic effect than a single explosion could suggest. The strategic motivations behind this reported airstrike are multifaceted and designed to reshape the security landscape of the region. The primary goal was likely to blind Iran's defensive network by taking out its central command node. This creates a state of confusion and paralysis, making it difficult for Iran to detect or respond to further incursions. It is a classic military tactic: disable the enemy's senses before launching a wider attack. This action effectively demonstrates that even the most heavily fortified areas of Iran are penetrable, undermining the regime's claims of having an impenetrable air defense shield and creating doubt among its military leadership. A second major objective was to escalate the conflict by striking deep inside Iranian territory, specifically in the capital. For a long time, the unspoken rule was that direct attacks on the homelands of either Israel or Iran were off limits. By violating this threshold and hitting a target in Tehran, the aggressor is sending a clear message: the old rules no longer apply. This move is intended to establish a new level of deterrence, showing that the cost of continued aggression against Israeli interests will be paid not by proxies in Syria or Lebanon, but by the IRGC itself, right in its own backyard. It dramatically raises the stakes for any future confrontation. Weakening Iran's missile capabilities was another key strategic driver. The IRGC Air Force is the custodian of Iran's powerful ballistic missile arsenal, which is considered a primary threat by Israel and its allies. By targeting the headquarters responsible for planning missile operations and the warehouses storing critical components, the strike aimed to directly degrade this offensive potential. This is a proactive measure designed to reduce Iran's ability to launch a large-scale missile attack in a future conflict, effectively clipping its wings before it can take full flight and asserting military dominance. In conclusion, the possible consequences of this strike are profound. Iran is now faced with a difficult choice. It can either retaliate forcefully to restore its credibility and deterrence, risking a full-scale war, or it can absorb the blow, which might be interpreted as weakness by its enemies and even its own supporters. The attack is likely to accelerate Iran's efforts to further disperse and harden its critical military assets, making them harder to target in the future. For the wider region, this incident introduces a new and dangerous level of instability. The shadow war has now broken into the open, and the path forward is fraught with uncertainty and the risk of catastrophic miscalculation.